and development. Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to your very own Byju's 9th and 10th grade channel. I'm your teacher Aishwarya and I welcome you to Shikhar series where now we are going to be kickstarting our social sciences on the channel as well, where the first session today is going to be on resource and development, and today is going to be part 1 of 2 that I'm going to be covering, where in today's class I will mainly be talking about what are resources. I'll also be talking about the brief classification of resources because of course NCERT has now deleted that part. Then along with that I will also be talking to you about resource planning, which is very important on an examination point of view, and we're going to end today's class with understanding about the conservation of resources. So these are the 4 topics that we are going to be winding up in today's class. Now of course I do understand that for the live students who are here, I do know that in the previous class extended a little bit more than I assumed that it would take. So don't worry, I will be taking 45 minutes of class, making sure that I wind this up and you have utmost clarity on this particular topic. Now first and foremost, like I said, good evening to all of my students, and for my live students, I thank you all for being so patient and waiting for me. For students watching this much later, I welcome you all to this class. I hope that all of you have your textbooks open with you, right? And I hope all of you have your notebooks as well if you have it with you, and also requesting all of you to have a pencil as well, right? Because let me tell you, most pointers that I'm going to be discussing about is going to be from your textbook, and of course on an examination point of view, I will be telling you from where all your teachers will ask you a question, what all you need to study and keep, because trust me, I will tell you one thing. Geography is very easy, right? Geography is very simple. It is not at all tough, and everybody has this preconceived notion, right, ma'am? Geography is about, ratification. It's a lot of, memorizing. So much I need to think about before I, actually start doing geography. Nothing like that. Geography is very easy. It's actually very relatable also, right? So this right here is very important. So students, very quickly, please make sure you have your notebooks and pens ready with you, right? Ma'am, not geography, it's history. History is also very simple, so don't worry, right? So very quickly, everybody, just to check with all of you, I hope that my audio, my video and my screen and whatever I've been writing on the screen is visible to all of you. If it is, please do give me a quick thumbs up on the live chat to let me know that we are good to go. And at the end of the day, let me tell you, if you are a new student to Byju's 9th and 10th grade, let me tell you that we have daily live classes starting from 5 p.m. all the way till 9 p.m. And of course, you do know that Shikhar series has been launched for all of you to kickstart like an early bird preparation, because I know for a lot of you, a lot of chapters have been complete. Many of you are in a sort of panic state that, arey ma'am, so much is done in school, but we are, going slow. I understand. But here at Byju's, we also believe that having conceptual clarity is very important. Jaldi mein I can teach you everything and go. But how much are you actually are you going to remember? How much are you actually going to, use for later? You should not when you are studying, you should not study for the immediate future. You should study so that concepts are long lasting. Which is why here, let me tell you that at the end of the day, you have to subscribe. Trust me. You will benefit, and you can ask your seniors also. If you feel like, arey ma'am, do you really do sessions that are going to help? Ask your seniors. They will definitely tell you that these sessions help them. And for social sciences, we're just we're going to kickstart for Shikhar series, but other sessions are available from the previous batches on our channel, so you will be able to find. A lot of students are saying, ma'am, notes are not coming on Telegram. Not to worry, I will convey it to the team, and let me tell you that the notes will be made available. So I kindly request students to make sure that they don't spam about the notes in the chat, and we will focus on today's class, okay? So are we ready? Quick Josh level check on the chat. Are we good to go? Are we excited for today's class where we are going to be learning about resources and development, right? Okay, ready ma'am? Yes, Josh is super high. Awesome, that's all that I want. So what are we going to do, or what are we going to learn today? Some of it is behind me, so please don't mind. We're going to understand what are resources, and not in the normal easy essay, memorizing way, but we'll actually understand what is a resource. We'll understand how we can classify resource. Now, this is not something you need to pay too much attention to because CBSE, of course, in rationalized syllabus has reduced this part, but we will briefly touch base on it. And we will also start resource planning and development, right? So, we are going to focus on this part a little bit more in greater detail. So let's get started with the first part on understanding what are resources, right? That's what the chapter says, resources and then development. So first you should know what is resource, yes? So here we'll start with a simple example. Now let's assume that you and I want to build a house together, okay? So you and I want to build a house. Now if you and I want to build a house, what all do I need? Can you tell me in the live chat? And for students watching this video later, you can think about it. You can list it down in your notebook as well as to what all would we require to build a house. Many of you are saying, ma'am, bricks. Okay, I'm going to list this down. So I can see there are bricks. I will require land. Very good. I need land. Then what do I need? I need cement. Yes. I need cement. I need water. I need money. Yeah, of course I need money. Then what do I need? I need glass for my windows. Okay, I require glass. I require iron rods. I need oh, everybody's gone into manufacturing industries. Capital, labor, okay, sand, right? I need sand. What else do I need? I need paint. Okay, I need paint to paint my house. I want it to be looking, beautiful. I need people. Me alone cannot build a house. No, small, little, tiny Aishwarya, I'm carrying bricks and building house. Not happening. I need plaster. Exactly. So, I require all of these things, right? Now, all of these things that are there, right? They are available to me in my environment. Yes or no? Do you all agree with me? They are available to me in my environment and they satisfy my need, right? So, we see that they satisfy. So, we see that it satisfies my need of building a house, right? Am I getting two things out of this? Yes or no? So these things that we just listed out are nothing but resources, right? So what are resources? Resources is everything which is available in my environment that can be used to satisfy my need. So now, of course, building a house was one example. But if you think about it, the water that we drink, the food that we eat, the soil in which we grow our food, right? The coal which we use to generate energy, all of these things are present in our environment and it is satisfying our need. But again, I have a question for you, right? Now, I told you, let me give you an example. Now, let's go back to our initial example only. We were building a house, right? Now, if I want to build a house, I also require electricity, right? I need electricity. Now, if I need electricity, I have to connect the electricity or I need to connect different parts. I need to do electric wiring. Yes or no? Right? So, we know that I need to do electric wiring in my house. Now, what are electric wires made of? Can you tell me? Electric wires, what are they normally made up of? They're made up of conductors, right? Something which can conduct electricity. Of course, right? Very good. Soumya told me, Soumya, Rohit, Swarn, Comfy Studies, all of you giving me the answer. They're all made up of copper. Now, what if I give you one copper wire like this, right? Just a baby copper metal. Imagine if I give you copper metal and I tell, okay, go do electric wiring in your house using this copper wire. Will you use this or no, right? Will you be using this particular copper wire or no? Yes or no? Very simple. Okay, everybody's telling me, ma'am, no. Now, I want you to tell me why. Why is it that we are not going to use this copper metal as it is? Because this is not the ideal way in which we would use it, right? This is not the way in which it is useful for us, right? Copper metal is useful, but this is not the form in which we would probably use it. But rather, if I gave you these wires, right? If I gave you these wires and I said, hey, use this for wiring the house or do electric wiring, then you will be like, yes, ma'am, thank you for giving me these wires. I will do the electric wiring and everything is going to be good to go, right? So what is our understanding from this? Does this mean that whatever is there in my environment is a resource? I can just take it, go out, cut the tree, keep it in my house, and yes, hooray, I got paper. No, that's not how we do it, right? We see that there are certain other conditions that have to be met before I really call something a resource. Yes? So what are these other conditions that are going to be there? Now, before I touch base upon these other conditions, to Junior World, who's been constantly spamming on the chat, let me answer that I know that your unit tests are going to start soon, and on the channel it seems like we are going slow. But like I said, I will tell you that we focus on having deeper conceptual clarity, and we will cover your concepts. Don't worry, you hit that subscribe button and you don't take tension about anything else. We are here for you. Let us take the tension. Okay? So now let's come back to our class. Yes? So now, of course, coming back, let me tell you, what are the other conditions that we need to keep in mind before we call something as a resource? So first and foremost, it is not that a resource is something that is just present in the environment and that has to satisfy our needs, right? But it needs to be technologically accessible, economically feasible, culturally acceptable. Heavy words. Now, what do we mean by technologically accessible? That means that I must have the technology to use my, product from the environment or my material from the environment and convert it to something usable. So let me tell you, imagine I have trees, okay, and I get paper out of it. Can I just magically convert with one, magic wand I have and I'm like, hey, tree, go become paper? No, right? I should rather have the technology. I need to have the materials. I need to have the machines that will help me extract the pulp and then convert it to paper, right? Or whether it is my coal, right? Or whether you take anything, whether it's my water and I want to generate electricity out of it. I can't just magically be like, water, go become electricity. No, I need to have technology. And it should not be that whatever I use, right, or whatever I want to, whatever technology I use, or, if I want to maybe say get a resource out of something in the environment, I should not be spending thousands and millions of rupees just to get little bit out of it. So if I'm converting or getting paper from trees, it should be in such a way that I don't spend too much money. Because if I spend too much money, then people also will have to spend that much money and buy it, right? So it should be economically feasible. Yes, money should be there and it should be something which people can afford. Imagine if electricity was being sold at some 10,000 rupees. Will we be able to afford electricity? No, right? So it should be something wherein you have the technology and you're able to produce it at cheap scale and culturally acceptable. Which means that it should be not something which is offensive, right? It should be something which we can accept within our culture, right? So when you define a resource can be defined as anything in our environment which is available in our, anything in our environment which can be used to satisfy our needs, which is technologically accessible, economically feasible. That means that it is, feasible is what is doable, right? What is doable or what I can achieve with little amount of money, right? And of course, it should be culturally acceptable. So why should something be culturally acceptable? Now, let me give you an example. Now, across the world, right? Now, I don't know what example to give you. Like, if not to give you an inappropriate example, I'm trying to find a more appropriate example. Okay, now let's imagine that there is some study which says that maybe, right, if you grow maybe from some animal, let's give a hypothetical example, okay? Let's assume that from a hypothetical animal X, you can get, maybe 10 times the energy that you will get from coal. I'm giving you a hypothetical example, right? Now, X is an animal here, right? Now, of course, doing this at a large scale needs to be acceptable by people, right? And of course, there's ethics that comes into the picture. There's a lot of things that comes into the picture. People should not get affected by it, which is why it needs to be culturally acceptable, where it's not offending or affecting people, right? So that is something we need to understand. Now, before I go ahead, I have a quick poll question for all of you, right? Yes. I will take this question, Juhi. Which of the following statements is or are true regarding resources? Resources are everything which is available in our environment which can be used to satisfy our needs provided it is technologically accessible. Economic feasibility is not taken into account when it comes to defining a resource. Which is the correct answer? Yes? What is the correct answer? In the chat, very quickly. You have two statements from which you need to identify the correct answer. Very good, all of you. Very good. Yes, all right, exactly. Correct answer is option A, not option D. Resource is everything which is available in our environment that can be used to satisfy our need, provided it is technologically accessible, right? I know some of you said, ma'am, D, because it didn't say economically feasible or no. But technically the statement is true, right? They just said amongst the two, which is accurate. Yes? So in this case, we see that correct answer is option A. Now moving on, right? We know that resources that are there at the end of the day, yes? So when you talk about resources, at the end of the day, if I want to build a good house, if I want to, develop my village, right? So imagine I live in this particular village X, yes? And I want to make sure that this village has good houses, and I want to make sure it has good roads, and I want to make sure it has good manufacturing, yeah, right? So I want to build more and more houses, which means that I want to develop my village, right? This brings me to the second point. With resources comes the more development. I am able to make something better, right? I'm able to make an area better. Now with this case, is only using resources necessary for development, right? As a matter of fact, no, right? It's not that, oh, iron is available, oh, coal is available. Yes, development is going to happen. It's not the only case. Now we know that there needs to be technology and there needs to be some strong institution. But there's also one more thing, right? There is one more thing which needs to come into the picture, which will tie everything together. You imagine resources there, technology is there, some institutions which facilitate these processes are there. But something is missing that is tying all of this together. Who is that? Or what are they? Exactly, they are humans, right? So at the end of the day, we have this transformational triangle, a resource transformation. So we are able to utilize, right? So if we have a resource which is present in the environment, yes, but we know that we can't use it as it is, or it's not something which we can use at a large scale. So we need to implement some technology, right? And there might be some institutions, right? It could be maybe institutions could be in the form of factories, it could be in terms of capital, right? It could be anything, right? So we see that there could be institutions which will facilitate and help us use this technology. But at the end of the day, who has to do all this? Human beings, right? Human beings need to be there, and humans are the ones at the end of the day a very important resource. So the transformational triangle is that of nature, technology and institution. And in this case, we observe that at the end of the day, development will happen only when human beings come together and they bind it. And it's important to understand that it's not only technology or institutions which are working alone. Development will also face various other factors that come into the picture, right? And which is why we are able to use the resources the way we do. But over time, of course, there have been some detrimental causes which we will discuss at the end of the session. But so far, are you all with me? Have you all understood this basic concept of what is a resource and why resources are important to us, right? And how resources contribute towards development? Are we all clear? Easy peasy that you will never forget about it. That's my promise to you. Know that when you attend my class, I make it a point that you never forget all of these concepts. Yes? Very good. Now we are going to move on to a very small topic which I am not going to spend too much time, because as per rationalized syllabus in 2023-24 this part has been deleted, but they have briefly mentioned it, so I am going to talk about it. Okay, very little, I am not spending too much time. That is on classification of resources. Now, the resources that are available in and around me can be classified, or they can be divided in various ways, right? So first is based on origin. That means from where I get my resource. Now, based on origin, I can either get it from living organisms or I can get it from non-living organisms. So if I get it from living organisms, I will call it as biotic or resources. But if I get it from non-living organisms, it will be abiotic, right? Very simple and easy. Now, of course, based on status of development, we can categorize these resources, right? So based on categories or based on where they are at in terms of their development. Now, everybody will ask me, ma'am, ye kya hai? What is this? You don't need to pay too much attention for your board examination front. Just for your curiosity, I will tell you. See, you have status of development. That means how well developed these resources are, right? So it's basically on how well developed they are, which means if this is a scale of least developed to well developed, you have different ways in which they stand, right? You have developed resources where your technology is available, you have, institutions, or you have factories which are set up, and you are able to use this resource to its best. So let's take the example. For example, if you talk about coal, we use coal, no? We use coal for getting energy. And we have all sorts of technology which is available to use or extract that energy from coal. We have so many thermal factories from which we get it. So it's a good developed resource, right? But then you have potential resource also. Now potential resource is like how we say this student has potential to score marks. That means that this student is good, right? This student is scoring marks. I mean, has the potential, is very smart, knows that, he has good intelligence, he's able to understand concept, but something he's not working hard, maybe he's, not paying attention in class, or maybe he's not taking his exam seriously, right? So because of all of these things, what happens is that there is potential, but not utilizing it to its extent, right? Have the ability, but, probably not fully utilized, but can be utilized in the future. So that is what we mean by potential resource. So your wind energy is one such example, right? Because you know that your wind energy is something which has a lot of potential, but it's not really being put into use. Then you have something which is called as stock resource, right? Now you have stock resource and you have reserve. Now stock resource is something which is present in nature, okay? Stock is present in nature. It's kind of like how you have, in your mother's kitchen, there will always be stock of rice, right? And there will always be stock of dal, there'll be stock of pickles. But what will happen? It will be kept in one place where we will not touch it, right? We will not touch it, we will not use it, but it is there, no? So here if you think about it, stock is something like that. Stock is there, it is present in nature, but there is no technology wherein we can use it. For example, you have water, 70% of the land, earth is water. And if you think about it, if I split water, I will get hydrogen and I will get oxygen. Now hydrogen can also be used as a good source of energy. But I don't have any technology where I can do this at a large scale. So we are not able to use it. Stock is there, but I'm not able to use it, right? Then last but not the least, we see that there is reserve, okay? Reserve is kind of like, it is there, we'll use it in the future, right? So you have current technology is there, but we are not using it much. Reserve, I will use it in the, future when I need it. Like, how in bike there is always one reserve tank. You don't use the reserve in the beginning. Your main tank ka fuel is used in the bike. But later, when there is no fuel left, they will slowly, this reserve will kick in, no? So that is what you mean by reserve. Then you have this kind based on status of development. Are we all clear with this? Are we all clear and understanding this? Yes? Okay. Are we good to go? Because this is something most of you might have a doubt in, which is why I am spending some time, right? Okay, tomorrow in the future you should not have doubt telling, "Arey ma'am, ye kya hai?" Exactly. Very good. Simple, easy peasy stuff. Then based on ownership. Okay, ownership is also super simple. Kind of like house owner, landlord, stuff like that, no? So based on ownership, you can see that, your resources can be classified as individual, right? So what is individual? It is omitted, Ritisha, I know, but this is for your curiosity, I am telling you. I will not teach this in the future, don't worry. I'm just not spending too much time. Individual, me if I have my own piece of land, I'm an individual owner of that resource. Community, like your playgrounds, your parks, it's owned by the community, right? National, international, you know that national that is there is owned by a particular country. Normally oceanic, if you look at the oceans and everything, like your mountains and all that which come under. So if you think about it, the Himalayan range that falls within India is part of India, but those which falls under Tibet, it's part of Tibet. So we see that these kind of resources are owned by, different nations. And beyond this, in international is when it's beyond 2000 nautical miles and everything that comes in international resource, right? They'll not ask you example, but they may give you like MCQ based questions from this topic, maximum. In board exam, MCQ based questions will come, that's it. That's all, right? Private, public, one country, yeah, simple. Then exhaustibility. See, exhaustibility is little important because you will learn it later also. You will learn concept of exhaustibility even in minerals and resources, right? So in minerals and resources you will learn exhaustibility, but I will anyway touch base on this. Now we know that broadly, we know that there are some resources which are limited in supply, right? So we see that they are very limited in supply and there's not a lot. For example, your coal, your petrol, there are certain minerals, right? They are limited because they take a long time. So we see that it takes a long time to form. Yes, which is why we see that they are easily exhaustible. And we call such as non-renewable. Yes. So we see that these are called as non-renewable source resources. While on the other hand, we have renewable. This is there in class 8 also, very easy. We have renewable sources of energy wherein we see that it is abundant, it can be renewed, right? We can get it back. So we see that your wind, water, solar, they all come under this category. Yes? Exhaustibility is there in EVS also. So very quickly everybody, here's a quick poll question for all of you, right? Coal is an example of which kind of resource? Potential, developed, stock or reserve. Alisha, Ankita ma'am has done a syllabus discussion which is available on the channel. You can go check that video out. You will be able to find it. Very good, all of you, very good. Coal is an example of developed resource. Yes? So far I told you, no, very, very easy things only. Now we will move on to slightly important things, right? So I'm going to take a step aside. Maybe I might get cut a little, but I want all of you to see. Yes? Now, when you look at resource and planning, right? Now, this topic right here is the important topic that I want you to focus on. Resource planning and development. This is what you need to pay attention to. Now, over time, right? Over time, if you think about it, in our world, yes, so let's assume this is our world, right? Now the world population has been considerably increasing and we know that there has almost been an exponential increase in population, right? I am not telling that there is a great increase. I am telling that there is an exponential increase in population. Now, if there is an exponential increase in population, what is going to happen? Can you tell me? If there is exponential increase in population, what are the not catastrophes, what are the consequences of it, right? Exponential means double, triple, it has increased at one go, right? What is going to happen? Demand, right? Exactly. So when there is exponential increase, we see that there is increase in demand. Demand for what all? Like how all of you are telling me, ma'am, food ke liye there will be demand, right? Now there is increased in demand for resources also, right? Because all countries want to develop, all countries want to have proper manufacturing and everything, right? So more resources will be in demand. And do you think that these resources that are there, they are a gift from nature? Mother Nature is like, okay, everybody, all my, human beings, take resources. This is for you. No, right? Resources are things which are available in the environment, but it's just that we are utilizing it, right? We are utilizing it for our benefit. Yes? And over time, we have seen that there has been considerable deforestation, there has been excessive mining that has happened, and then we also know that we've been drilling oil, right? So we know that at the end of the day, these resources are being exploited to a point, right? Exploitation, what do we understand as exploitation? Utilizing it. But when you overly consume it, you will overutilize and you will degrade, right? So here eventually we see that it has led to degradation of resource, right? And we know that can we survive without resource? Can we all survive without water? Can we survive without, land or food? Absolutely. We cannot survive. Yes? So we know that as much as there has been need for these resources, there has been utilizing, there has been over exploitation, right? Over exploitation. Now, this particular part is very, very important. It will come for a 3 marker in your unit test. It can come for a 3 marker in your board exams also. That is, what are the consequences of degradation of resource? Or what is going to happen if we overexploit resource? Or what will happen if I use resources indiscriminately, right? What is it that is going to happen to us? So this is the question that they will ask you for 3 marks. Everybody, in your textbook, I don't have the textbook with me, but in your textbook, please put a star mark, right? This is very, very important. Yes? Step number 1, increase in population also means that there is more resources which are going to get utilized. So the rate in which the resources deplete, that means the rate in which the amount of resources are getting consumed will be much more. That means if I use more and more, there will be less and less, right? So there is depletion of resource. Now along with this, what has happened is that there has been not proper distribution of these resources. So over time, okay, this is not some problem which has come right now, but it's been there for centuries. The problem is that there are some people who have access to these resources, okay, and they could be businessmen, they could be vendors, right, there could be whoever. But the thing is, there is accumulation of resource in the hands of few people, very few people who become very rich. So imagine this is a piece of land, right? This is a piece of land and maybe there are 5 people, right? There are 5 people here. Now you imagine that from this land, if I mine, I will get diamonds. Okay, I am giving you a hypothetical example. On mining, I am going to get diamonds. Now you imagine if I am one person and I buy this land and I sell all these diamonds, I will make at least 10 million, right? Lots of money I am going to make. But what's going to happen? Over generations after generations, only my family members are going to be getting all this money. But from this land, there will be so many people who will work for me. But of course, at the end of the day, they will not inherit that much money, right? So eventually what is going to happen? The resources that are there have come in the hands of few people and it has divided the whole community into 2 broad segments. People who are very rich and who have a lot of money and people who are very, I'll not call poor, but don't have access to that money, right? So it's divided the whole segment into 2 people. I mean, the whole segment into 2. Yes? That has happened. And as a byproduct, what has happened? Damage. This is, of course, we know from EVS we've been learning, right? From our lower grades. Ecological damage has been happening. So overconsumption, cutting of trees, polluting water has eventually led to environmental degradation, environmental pollution, land degradation, which we are going to study in greater detail, ozone layer depletion, global warming, so on and so forth. So when you think about it, more the population, more the demand. If there's more demand for resource, amount of resource which is going to be available for the future is going to be very, very less. And eventually we also know that there is division of these resources amongst different people, causing 2 segments and at the end of the day resulting in ecological damage. Are we all clear? Are we clear? Yes? Because we know that at the end of the day, resources are necessary for maintaining the quality of life, right? And the more the resources get damaged, our quality of life is going to get affected, which is why this is important. Ma'am, increase, that went very fast. Increase in demand leads to rise of prices. Exactly. Very good comfy studies. That's also a very important pointer, right? Yes, I will quiz tomorrow might be difficult, but end of this week I shall try. Yes? Okay, all right. So now we know this. Then what is our way out? Arey ma'am, how can we make things better, right? How can we make things better? Is there a way out of this? Now you have told me, ma'am, everything looks like it is falling down the drain. There are so many people, resources are getting utilized, so much issues, right? Looks like everything is down the drain. Can we do something about it? Any of you feel like, ma'am, I feel like we can do something about it? Yes or no? Yes? Can we do something about this? What do you think? Very good, Rohit and many others for saying, yes, we can. Absolutely. Is there any way to come out of this? Make sure that we are at least, back in those days we made big blunders. But at least now can we make things better? Of course. that comes with equitable distribution of resources. Fancy word of equitable distribution, but that means more of equal distribution of these resources for development. Smart planning basically, right? You imagine you had only 5 kgs of apple, okay? You have 5 kgs of apple and you have to survive with 5 kgs of apple for 10 days. 10 days pe you have 5 kgs. Now, if you spend or if you end up eating all these 3 kgs of apple in 2 days, you are left with only 2 kgs for the next 8 days, right? Doesn't make sense. So what should you do? You have to plan. I have 10 days, which means I will eat this for breakfast, this for dinner, this for lunch, right? Then I will use something else. So you need to make sure that you have to plan it properly, right? So you need to have equitable distribution of resources and you need to plan your resources well, right? So now, of course, how can we do this? That is by sustainable development. So the end goal is, of course, sustainable development, okay? So now, of course, at the end of the day, right, what is sustainable development? Sustainable development is a development which should take place without damaging the environment. To be sustainable means that we have to be more smart, right? Be more efficient with how we utilize these resources. And we should not, use resources thinking only about ourselves. We have to think about the future also. And we need to make sure that these resources are available for the future generations. So we saw that in the earlier days, way back in in the 1990s, we had the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, wherein the leaders actually came together to discuss this. Because by then we already started consuming our resources, and they came together to address urgent problems of environmental protection at a global level. So no longer we are talking as a chotu country and state. At a global level, we are facing a crisis. And this summit was held in 1992, where they came together and they decided to follow the Agenda 21, right? So what is this Agenda 21? It was an agenda which was set to combat environmental damage, right? Making sure that they combat diseases, various other global problems together so that they can achieve sustainable development. So that was the aim, right? That was the aim of this Agenda 21, and it was signed by various leaders, right? So now, of course, we understand this particular part. So now, what do we understand by this sustainable development and how can we plan our resources better? Yes, ma'am, are we still following it? See, over time, of course, we have accumulated various other deals and we've had various other summits where we discuss problems. Constantly, our leaders are in conversation to make sure that we move towards a more sustainable development. Yes? Okay, so which is where resource planning comes into the picture. Now, before I go ahead, so far are we clear? Yes, so far are we clear with what I am teaching? Now, some of you are finding that my pace is a little fast. If my pace is a little fast for you in the live class right now, I request you that once the session is over and it is available, you can come back and put it at a lower speed and watch it, right? So you can rework. You can keep rewatching it until you understand. Yes? So I do understand that, now later in another 10-15 minutes, you have a particular class coming up, which is why I would maybe go a little faster, or there might be some topics I might not be able to address now, but I will take that up in part 2 of this session. Okay? So I hope that it is clear to you. So going back to Rio de Janeiro Summit, which I will explain once again. So this was held in June 1992, right, in Rio de Janeiro, and it was an international Earth Summit that was held. Why did all these world leaders come together? They realized that, environmental degradation is happening at a very large space, and this is not acceptable, right? So which is why they came together to speak about environmental protection, right? And of course, talk about sustainable development at a global level. So if you think about it, there is a small box which is there in the textbook. You just need to put a star mark. They'll not ask you much about Rio de Janeiro Summit, but they may ask you, right, which summit was held or where the summit was held, right? They may ask you simple questions like that. So they assembled and they, signed to make sure that they follow this Agenda 21, right? And principles of Agenda 21. Now, why was it called Agenda 21? Because for the 21st century. And what was the aim, right? What was the aim of having this kind of an agenda? First and foremost, it was for global sustainable development, right? So what do we mean by global sustainable development? It means that at a broader level, to have sustainable, that means use your resources wisely, so that at the end of the day, you are not just exploiting resources for yourself, but whether it's your coal, whether it's your minerals, it is there for the future generations also. And of course, we know that it is the agenda to combat environmental damage. So far, a lot of environmental damage happened, a lot of diseases were getting spread, and a lot of issues were rising up, which is why they decided that we should not be no longer looking at it just as a country, but we should look at it as a global community. What can we do to better the lives of people across the globe, right? So that is what we mean by it. So now, of course, moving on to talking about resource planning. Yes, so let's understand resource planning. So just give me one moment. Okay. So now, of course, when we talk about resource planning, there are 3 steps. How can I plan my resources well? Going back to my question, I told you that if we have to plan something, you need to first have everything with you, right? So if I have 10 apples or 5 kgs of apples for 10 days, what will I do? First, I will identify, okay, I have 5 kgs and I have 10 days. Then I will make a plan to make sure that I will use this, and eventually I will execute it, right? So that is why we will follow a very similar pattern with resources also. First thing, if I have to plan how to use my resource, I should know where my resources are. No, in my country, if I don't know where I can get coal, where I can get, maybe iron ore, or if I don't know where I'm going to get my oil, how will I plan for my resource? So first thing I should do is to identify. Yes, identification is number 1. Now after identification, what are you going to do? For identification also you have to survey. That means I have to go, okay, Jharkhand mein I will find iron ore. Chhattisgarh mein I will find iron ore. Now in Karnataka I have, I have this particular mineral. In Maharashtra I can find this kind of mineral, right? So I will survey. Then I will make a map. Okay, this is my map. Ki ye minerals is available to me. Now, then it's not just that minerals are found, right? Okay, I have coal in I have iron ore in Chhattisgarh. Now, is it good iron ore? Is it bad iron ore? How much iron ore is there? Is it, am I getting these many tons from Chhattisgarh, or am I getting only this much, right? I need to make sure that I'm able to figure it out, right? So, qualitative and quantitative estimation, how much, what all things that need to be done. So, that is also something you have to figure out. Then next is developing a planning structure. So now I have got all my information, right? In which all states I can find, how much of which mineral I will find, all that details I have with me. Now next thing is to make a plan. Okay, now I have all these minerals with me. What technology do I have, right? Do I have proper skills? Are people skilled enough to do things? Yes. Am I able to implement good resource? That is something we need to do. And at the end of the day, however we plan our national or however we plan our development with these resources, it should align with the nation's plans. It should not be that, oh, Aishwarya ma'am wants to do this, so let her do her thing. Our country will go somewhere, our country's plan is this, and 2 plans are not matching. My plan for development or my plan of using resources wisely should be aligned with the broader perspective that our country should develop, right? It should not be that 2 things are going 2 parallel ways. Yes? So in this particular case, we see that resource planning becomes effective. So are we all clear? Are we all clear with this? I don't think it is actual and potential. It is developed and potential. Purvi, I will tell you towards the end. Okay? So quickly going back. We know resource planning. Is resource planning needed in India? Absolutely, right? Because we know that across the country, the distribution of resources is not equal, but rather distribution of resources is unequal in India. There are some places like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, where I told you that there is a large amount of, minerals and coal deposits. Arunachal Pradesh has a lot of water resources, but they lack, infrastructural development, right? So we see that different regions of India are rich in different types of resources, but they lack something. Which is why we need to plan along these lines, right? Whatever we plan, we need to make sure that the way we plan is to empower the whole thing. Yes? And we see that in our country, we have dedicated organizations which plan these resources and utilize, the central government is actively involved in this particular process. Yes. Now, of course, over time, right, without technological development, having resource alone is not going to do. And the best example is that of colonized countries. Like if you take the example of Africa, it is rich in resources, but there's not a lot of strong technology or strong institutions available, which is why despite having those resources also, they are not able to utilize it to their best. And which is why eventually we saw that the colonists sort of drained their wealth. They took away all of these resources and utilized it for their benefit. Right? So with this, everybody, I come to the end of today's class, right? So now we know we started off with resources, what they are, we learned about its importance, we learned about the classification, we spoke about resource planning, we spoke about the transformational triangle, and with this, I come to the end, right? So everybody, this is your homework question, right? Homework question is, what are the 3 steps which are involved in resource planning? I need you to let me know in the comments of this video. And very quickly, everybody, I want you to tell me, are we feeling confident about this chapter, right? Are we all feeling confident? Arey ma'am, this is very, very simple and easy, right? Yes. Okay. Right. See, resources, somebody says, Arey ma'am, resources are under the state. My bad, sorry. Yes, my bad. I think in the whole thing I went in a flow. Yes. So quickly, sorry Aditya, my bad, I made a mistake. My bad. Okay. So now of course, Ritisha asking me, ma'am, classification, you said it was not coming, but in MCQs it may come. So I will tell you in board exams what happened is, they will ask you, for example, your question will come as to based on origin, right? So based on origin of resources, which among the following are true? And then they'll give you potential, biotic, and they'll give you developed and all that, and you have to identify which is the correct answer. So they'll ask you some simple questions like that. Which are the points to be noted? Like I said, important points are on discrimination. I mean, indiscriminate use of resources. That is 1 point that you have to make a star mark. You can get that for 3 marks. Resource planning can come for 3 marks. They can ask you to write on sustainable development also for 2 marks. Okay? Yes. All right, important questions. Is it important to write reason in MCQ? No, you don't need to, right? You don't need to write MCQs. Okay, so with this, everybody, are we all clear? Because of course, you know that BYJU'S 9th and 10th has got you covered, right? In 40 minutes, we have covered this very simple topic, but at the same time, it's also very, very important. If you enjoyed this class, do not forget to hit the subscribe button. I'll be taking more and more classes for you for geography and economics. Don't worry, don't take tension telling, Arey ma'am, bahut sare portions baki hai. Don't worry, we are there with you, no. We've got you covered, right? So do not forget to share and like this video as well. And sustainable development I will again cover later on in the future. Now, of course, 8:15 you have your BQL. So please head on to, Global Gurus versus Number Ninjas. I have my fingers crossed, hoping that Global Gurus win. And I will see you all soon. But everybody, up until then, take care. Lots of love. Bye-bye.